The internet just witnessed a moment that might go down as one of the messiest celebrity implosions of the decade. One live button. One cracked voice. And years of secrets spilled like gasoline on an open flame. Because Remy Ma didn't just break her silence, she ripped the mask clean off a story fans thought they understood. And the moment she spoke, everything connected, the rumors, the side eyes, the sudden silences, the suspicious timelines. Papoose's name went from stand-up husband to trending scandal in minutes, and Claressa Shields. She didn't just get caught in the crossfire. She may have been standing in the middle of something way darker than anyone realized. What started as whispers about a side chick has now spiraled into leaked messages, alleged secret calls, and claims of overlapping relationships that don't add up no matter how you count the days. Social media is in full meltdown mode. Old interviews are resurfacing. Fans are freezing frames, dissecting captions, and asking the question nobody wants to say out loud: was this entire love story a lie from the beginning? Because according to Remy, the warning signs were there. The manipulation. The image over reality. The man selling forever while quietly securing his next move. And now, with Claressa talking babies and futures, the timing of this exposure feels anything but accidental. This isn't heartbreak, it's a collision. A legacy unraveling in real time. And the scariest part. The receipts everyone's hinting at haven't even fully dropped yet. Stay right here, because once you hear what allegedly happened behind closed doors, there's no UN hearing it. The moment Remy Ma hit go live, the air shifted. No intro. No warning. Just her face, lit harshly, eyes steady in a way that made people sit up straighter. This wasn't a rant. This was a reckoning. She opened with a sentence so calm it was terrifying, saying she'd been quiet long enough, and that the truth had a funny way of resurfacing when people started getting too comfortable lying. Within seconds, comments were flying so fast the screen looked like static. Everyone felt it. Something irreversible was about to happen. She didn't say Papoose's name right away. She let the silence stretch, almost daring people to connect the dots. Then she dropped it. And the internet combusted. According to her, the image everyone had been clinging to was never the full story. She said loyalty had been turned into a marketing campaign, that what looked like sacrifice was often survival, and that the same man being praised online had been living a completely different reality behind closed doors. She called it exhausting. She called it fake. And she said she was done protecting anybody. Almost instantly, insiders started whispering that this live wasn't spontaneous. That Remy had known something was coming. That she'd been tipped off days earlier about messages circulating, about a woman no one had clocked yet, about conversations that overlapped in ways that couldn't be explained away. Allegedly, that was the final straw. Because once Claressa Shields' name started trending next to Papoose's, Remy said the math stopped mathing. She claimed she'd tried to stay out of it. Tried to let the next chapter be the next chapter. But then she saw interviews, timelines, baby talk, future plans, and she recognized the script. According to her, it was the same script she'd lived through, just handed to a younger woman with more to lose. And that's when she said she reached out. Quietly. Privately. Woman to woman. Remy alleged she told Claressa straight up that the man she was dealing with wasn't solid the way he presented himself. That the charm came with baggage. That the promises came easy, but the follow-through never quite matched the performance. She said she wasn't trying to sabotage anything, just warn her. But the warning was dismissed as jealousy, as bitterness, as noise from a chapter that should have stayed closed. And in that moment, Remy said she realized something chilling. People only hear the truth when it's already too late. Then she hinted at receipts. Not flashy screenshots on the screen, but enough detail to make bloggers salivate. She described late-night FaceTime calls that cut off abruptly. Names saved under symbols instead of letters. Conversations that restarted after arguments like nothing ever happened. She claimed there were nights when one woman thought she had his full attention, while another was already queued up next. Allegedly. Always allegedly. But the specificity made it hard to ignore. Twitter went feral. Old clips resurfaced within minutes, interviews where Papoose talked about loyalty, about family, about sacrifice. Fans started quoting them back, with sarcasm dripping through the screen. Others defended him fiercely, accusing Remy of rewriting history to save face. The divide was instant and brutal. Team Remy. Team Pap. Team, everybody's messy. No one was neutral. And then Claressa responded. Her clapback was confident, sharp, almost amused. She dismissed the idea that she'd been warned, saying grown women don't need bitter exes policing their happiness. She implied that Remy was projecting pain instead of healing. For a moment, it looked like she'd flipped the narrative. Support poured in. Fans praised her focus, her discipline, her refusal to be dragged into drama. But that moment didn't last. Because the internet started digging. A clip went viral from an interview where Claressa talked openly about her future, marriage, kids, timing, and the way she described her partner raised eyebrows. The dates didn't quite line up with when Remy claimed the marriage had truly ended. People started counting months. Screenshots of deleted posts circulated. Someone noticed a comment Papoose liked and then unliked. Another person clocked that a woman with no public connection had suddenly locked her page after being tagged repeatedly. Remy went live again, this time colder. She said what bothered her most wasn't the cheating rumors, it was the narrative. She accused Papoose of selling struggle as sacrifice, of letting the world believe he carried everything while she quietly handled more than people knew. She talked about money, but not in a bragging way. In a corrective way. She said bills don't care about love stories. That cash doesn't lie. And that people would be shocked if they knew who was really holding things down. She claimed the provider image was exaggerated. That behind the scenes, she was paying cash, signing paperwork, keeping things afloat while he focused on maintaining appearances. She alleged there were long stretches of instability, frustration, and resentment that never made it to Instagram. And she said that resentment eventually turns into something ugly. Then she said something that made the room freeze. She implied that before Claressa was ever public, she'd heard how Papoose really talked about her in private. That the compliments came later. That the interest wasn't immediate. That what changed his tune wasn't attraction, it was opportunity. The comment sections exploded. People demanded proof. Others said it sounded exactly like how certain men move when they're repositioning. Still, Papoose said nothing. And the silence felt intentional. Like he was letting the storm build before stepping into it. Bloggers speculated that lawyers were involved, that cease and desist letters were being drafted, that a divorce filing had already happened quietly, and this was all fallout. That theory gained traction when someone leaked that paperwork had been filed days before Remy's first live. Suddenly, the timing looked strategic. When Papoose finally broke his silence, it wasn't with explanations. It was with accusation. A single post that reframed everything. He painted himself as betrayed, as the one who stayed while loyalty eroded. He suggested the marriage had been disrespected long before any new woman entered the picture. He hinted at confrontations, at lines crossed, at humiliation he'd swallowed in private. And then he took it a step further, claiming he'd confronted a rival and ended it decisively. Whether that was truth or bravado didn't matter. The damage was done. Because now the story had shifted from messy to volatile. Remy fired back almost immediately, By the time the clock hit midnight, the timeline felt radioactive. That anonymous account didn't just tweet, it hovered, liked a few replies, then went silent again, letting paranoia do the work. Screenshots of the profile circulated instantly. No face. No bio. Just a handle that looked freshly made and a promise that felt intentional. Insiders started messaging bloggers saying the woman was real, that she'd been in the picture longer than anyone knew, and that she wasn't clout chasing, she was angry. Remy knew it too. She went live again, but this time she wasn't explaining. She was reacting. She smirked when the comments mentioned the tweet, and said something that sent chills through her supporters. I told her. I really did. She claimed she recognized the pattern immediately, the sudden distance, the selective transparency, the way stories change depending on who's asking. She said when a man starts managing narratives instead of relationships, the end is already written. Then she dropped another bomb. She alleged that while Claressa was being publicly celebrated as the new love, there were still unresolved financial ties behind the scenes. Shared assets. Lingering dependencies. Conversations that never stopped. According to her, the idea that everything ended cleanly was a lie people wanted to believe, because it made the transition easier to digest. She said real life isn't that neat. At the same time, a leaked voice memo began circulating in private group chats. No one posted it publicly, yet. But descriptions spread fast. A man venting. Complaining about pressure. Saying he felt misunderstood and boxed in. The voice allegedly mentioned juggling expectations and keeping people calm until things settled down. No names were spoken, but the cadence sounded familiar enough to spark panic. Papoose's defenders rushed to say it was AI, fake, doctored. His critics said it sounded exactly like someone trying to buy time. Claressa's silence grew heavier by the hour. Fans who once praised her confidence started questioning it. Some said she was being smart, protecting her peace. Others said the quiet felt like realization. A former friend of hers liked a tweet that said, "Sometimes the warning isn't loud, it's just persistent." That like was screenshot, reposted, and dissected until it felt like a statement. Papoose, meanwhile, came back swinging harder. He posted a long, emotional rant framing himself as the ultimate sacrifice. He talked about years spent holding someone down, opportunities lost, money drained, loyalty repaid with humiliation. He accused Remy of cheating repeatedly, of lying to the public, of weaponizing victimhood when the truth got uncomfortable. He said he stayed for the child, stayed for the image, stayed because he believed in fixing things even when they were broken beyond repair. But then he overplayed his hand. He claimed he'd been the invisible architect behind major success, that he wrote, guided, and shaped far more than anyone knew. That without him, certain milestones wouldn't exist. That confession reopened old wounds. Fans remembered past beefs, past accusations, past hypocrisy. They remembered how hard certain artists were criticized for using ghostwriters, and now the same man was allegedly admitting to exactly that while demanding credit. The contradiction was loud. Remy seized on it immediately. She mocked the sudden need for validation, saying people who are secure don't have to rewrite history to feel relevant. She accused him of resenting her success, of shrinking when she grew, of turning support into leverage. And then she said something that shifted sympathy in her direction again. She admitted she stayed quiet for years, because she didn't want their child to grow up reading think pieces about their parents' mess. That admission softened some critics. It made her earlier silence feel less strategic and more protective. But she wasn't done. She alleged that while she was being painted as reckless, he was already emotionally shopping for replacements. That Claressa wasn't the beginning, just the first one bold enough to go public. She hinted that the anonymous woman wasn't new at all, just tired of being invisible. Social media erupted again, when a second anonymous account appeared, claiming to have seen everything from the sidelines. That account alleged there were group chats. That jokes were made. That warnings were ignored. And that once Claressa started talking about babies publicly, someone else realized she was about to be erased. Whether that was true or not, the narrative stuck. Claressa finally responded, but not how anyone expected. No rant. No denial. Just a short post about focusing on training, protecting energy, and letting time reveal everything. The comments were brutal. Supporters told her to run. Critics accused her of deflection. Neutral observers said the post read like someone trying to convince themselves more than the public. Then the timeline cracked again. A blurry screenshot leaked showing a calendar entry with overlapping dates. One marked NYC, another marked Vegas, both tied to initials people thought they recognized. The screenshot vanished almost as quickly as it appeared, but not before being saved, enhanced, and reposted everywhere. Bloggers argued over authenticity. Lawyers warned about defamation. Fans didn't care. To them, it fit too perfectly. Remy went quiet after that. No lives. No posts. And when Remy goes quiet, it's never random. People speculated she'd said everything she needed to say. Others believed she was sitting on something bigger, waiting for the right moment. Meanwhile, Papoose started scrubbing his page. Old photos disappeared. Captions were edited. Comments were limited. That move alone fueled suspicion. As the saying goes, nothing screams guilt louder than digital erasure. Behind the scenes, sources claimed Claressa was furious, not at Remy, but at him. That she felt blindsided by timelines that didn't match what she'd been told. That promises suddenly felt conditional. That she was starting to see the warning signs she'd dismissed before. Whether that was true or just gossip, the shift in tone around her was undeniable. Sympathy replaced mockery. Concern replaced applause. And then came the most chilling rumor yet, that the anonymous woman wasn't planning a tweet storm, she was planning to go live. According to whispers, she had messages. Voice notes. Proof she'd been asked to stay quiet until everything settled. Proof she'd been reassured that the public relationship was temporary. Proof that made the entire situation look less like messy overlap and more like deliberate deception. The rumor spread so fast that platforms briefly throttled related hashtags. Papoose responded with a vague warning about lies traveling faster than truth. He said people would say anything for attention. But he didn't deny the existence of another woman. He didn't deny overlapping conversations. He just said the story was being twisted. And in scandals like this, what isn't denied matters more than what is. Fans began revisiting Remy's earliest comments with fresh eyes. Her calm. Her certainty. The way she spoke like someone who'd already processed the worst. Suddenly, her warning didn't feel reactive. It felt informed. And that realization unsettled people. Late that night, a final tease appeared on the anonymous account. A single screenshot of a message bubble, cropped just enough to hide names, but clear enough to read one line. She doesn't need to know everything yet. The timestamp predated Claressa's baby announcement. And as the internet held its breath, one thing was clear, the next reveal wouldn't just embarrass someone. It would confirm who was telling the truth all along. By morning, the tension was unbearable. Nobody had slept. Every refresh felt like a warning siren, because everyone knew the next drop would change the entire story. And then, without countdown or announcement, it happened. The anonymous account went live. No face. No filter. Just a dark screen and a voice that sounded calm, in a way only some. Her post wasn't long, but it felt heavy. She said she was hurt, disappointed, and processing information she'd just learned along with the rest of the world. She didn't name him. She didn't attack Remy. She simply said she would never knowingly build a future on someone else's pain. That sentence alone flipped public opinion overnight. Sympathy flooded in. Fans apologized for clowning her. Fellow athletes sent support. And suddenly, the narrative of homewrecker evaporated into something far more complicated, a woman realizing she'd been misled. Papoose responded almost immediately, and this time there was no confidence. No bravado. Just defensiveness. He accused the anonymous woman of clout chasing, of misinterpreting conversations, of trying to insert herself into something that was already ending. But again, he didn't deny the messages. He didn't deny overlap. He just claimed context was missing. And context is a luxury you don't get once receipts hit the timeline. Remy watched it all unfold in silence. Until she didn't. Her final live was short. No anger. No insults. Just clarity. She said watching everything play out confirmed what she'd known for years, that people will protect an image until the image no longer protects them. She said she didn't go public for revenge, but for truth. That she refused to let another woman be gaslit the way she once was. And then she addressed Claressa directly, saying she deserved honesty from the start and peace going forward. That moment shifted everything. Because for the first time, it stopped feeling like a catfight narrative and started looking like a pattern being exposed. Fans connected dots. Old rumors suddenly made sense. The pedestal Papoose had stood on for years cracked under the weight of too many unanswered questions. Loyalty, once his brand, became his biggest liability. Then came the legal whispers. Sources claimed lawyers were scrambling, that certain posts were being reviewed, that someone was considering defamation claims while someone else was considering telling even more. Platforms quietly removed a few clips. Hashtags got throttled again. That only made people more convinced there was truth buried under the chaos. Because silence doesn't spread rumors, resistance does. Claressa unfollowed him later that night. It was a small action, but it hit harder than any statement. Blogs ran with it instantly. Confirmed split, headlines flooded feeds. Fans praised her for choosing herself. Others speculated she'd been offered explanations that didn't add up. And while she stayed offline, her absence spoke volumes. Papoose posted one last message, saying he was done explaining himself to the internet and would focus on his child and his future. Comments were limited. The era of public defense was over. Whether by choice or exhaustion, he stepped back, just as the narrative fully turned against him. But the story didn't end there. Because late that night, a new leak surfaced, allegedly from someone close to the situation, claiming there were more women who never went public. That Claressa and the anonymous woman weren't exceptions, just the ones who crossed paths at the wrong time. The claim suggested a long-standing habit of emotional overlap, of promises tailored to whoever was listening. No proof yet. Just enough smoke to make people brace for another fire. Remy posted one final sentence to her story before disappearing again: patterns don't lie. People do. And that line lingered. Now fans are left replaying everything from the beginning. The interviews. The vows. The speeches about loyalty. The moments that once felt inspirational now feel performative. And everyone's asking the same question: was the warning always there, hidden under applause and praise? Because what unfolded wasn't just a breakup, or a rebound gone wrong. It was the collapse of a narrative that shaped careers, relationships, and public trust. And the scariest part. This might still not be everything. The anonymous account hasn't been deleted. Claressa hasn't spoken again. Remy hasn't closed the door completely. Which means somewhere, someone is still holding something back. And when that last piece drops, it won't just change opinions, it'll rewrite the entire story from the very beginning. If you're still here right now, it's because you already feel it. This story isn't over, and stepping away means missing the moment everything finally snaps into place. This isn't just gossip anymore. This is one of those celebrity sagas people will be referencing years from now, and the only ones who'll truly understand it are the ones who watched it unfold in real time. The next receipt, the next live, the next reaction could drop without warning, and when it does, the internet is going to pretend they always knew. But knowing after the fact isn't the same as seeing it happen. That's why you need to lock in right now. Hit that like button so the story keeps moving forward. Algorithms decide what survives, and silence is how narratives get buried. Drop your take in the comments. Whose side are you on, and what do you think is still being hidden? Because trust me, somebody is still holding back, and public pressure is the only thing that ever brings the full truth out. And if you haven't subscribed yet, you're playing yourself. The moment the next leak hits, the moment another name gets pulled into this mess, you don't want to be catching up through screenshots and half-told summaries. You want to be here when it breaks. Turn on notifications so you don't blink at the wrong time, because in scandals like this, the quiet moments are always the most dangerous. Stay tapped in. Stay watching. Because the next update won't ask for permission, and when it lands, it's going to hit even harder than the last.